The land of origin, the council hall. Inside the council hall, there is a black round table. The entire table is crystalline, made from the largest piece of dark realm crystal ever discovered in the infinite primordial space, invaluable, worth several ancestor-level corpses. Only the Cultivator Camp could produce such rare treasures. In the weaker forces within the infinite primordial space, possession of such a treasure would likely lead to the doom of the entire race. The Cultivator Camp, as one of the three major camps in the infinite primordial space, despite being suppressed by the largest force, the innate primordial life camp, for endless eras, the strength of the Cultivator Camp is also universally acknowledged. Beside the round table are 8 chairs, also crafted from dark realm crystal. 8 figures descended into the council hall. Yuan, Jin, Wulan, Ming Huang, Naigu, Starlight, Mo Man, and Luo Feng each took their seats. These 8 are the highest-ranking existence within the Cultivator Camp, deciding the fate of countless cultivators. Sitting on the dark realm crystal chair, Luo Feng instantly sensed the space-time formation. The space-time formation with the black round table as its core connects the entire space-time net. In an instant, the 3,600 world groups within the space-time net fell within the sensing range. Even though some world groups had been overrun and the space-time net thereby damaged, the space-time net from past timelines was still intact and could still survey the realm. Seated here, Luo Feng observed the 3,600 world groups, innumerable source worlds, countless ordinary worlds, whether intact or ruined, each reflecting in his mind. The council hall finally has an additional seat. Yuan looked at Luo Feng, smiling brightly. It's been so difficult. After endless ages, we've finally welcomed a new lord. It's really too slow for our Cultivator Camp to birth a lord, Jin remarked with emotion. After all, mastering the highest power, Tao, is of course much harder than for those ancestors, said Starlight. For ancestors, their emergence is relatively easier. During this war, several ancestors emerged. After the war, digesting some of the gains, ancestors will have some improvements. First, allocate the spoils of this war. Yuan chaired the meeting, stating, in this war we killed a total of 11 ancestors. This is unprecedented. Before this war we had only killed 14 ancestors over endless eras, Wulan marveled, and in this war alone we killed as many as 11. The tide has turned, Starlight smiled. Thanks to Luo Feng, Naigu sighed. Initially we were retreating one step at a time. It was Luo Feng's breakthrough that greatly increased our overall strength. His joining allowed us to kill 8 ancestors in a short time. After Luo Feng became a lord and suddenly joined the battle, it immediately led to the demise of 3 ancestors. Later, when Luo Feng was forcibly captured by the ancestor's side, and separated from his own faction, Luo Feng's then 10.8 billion origin explosion indirectly resulted in the demise of 5 ancestors. All thanks to Ming Huang, Luo Feng said. Within the situation where Starlight Lord and the Infinite Snake Ancestor, and Mother of Space-Time, were mutually restraining each other, although Starlight Lord remained superior, it was difficult to deliver a fatal blow to those ancestors. Ming Huang's thunder, powerful and terribly condensed. Strikes swiftly. Strikes if it moves. These 3 aspects caused many ancestor deaths, all reaped by Ming Huang. Those ancestors struggled against you all with all their might. I simply delivered the final blow, Ming Huang laughed. First allocate the spoils of war, Yuan laughed as he said, 11 ancestors' corpses, each lord gets a 10th. The rest are reserved at the land of origin for the entire Cultivator Camp. Even though each lord's contribution varied, and even Luo Feng had not participated in the battle of the demise of 3 ancestors, the distribution of the Cultivator Camp has always been thus. As long as one participates in part of the battle, the spoils of war are evenly distributed. Among the 8 lords present, besides Lord Naigu who particularly needed materials from ancestor corpses, the other lords were all meditating on the Tao, not in urgent need of ancestor materials. These 11 ancestors also carried many treasures with them. The old rules still divide evenly. The remainder is for the camp as a whole. Yuan also produced those treasures. The lords all casually selected a portion. Unless urgently needed, there would be no scramble. The ancestors had to fight with their true bodies. Without a life core, avatars are too weak. Not even 30% of their strength in this level of war between the 2 major camps, it's essentially meaningless. Like Starlight, merely reducing 3% of energy reserve diminished his role significantly in the war. This shows that in the war between the 2 major camps, one must be sufficiently strong enough to be dazzling, to play a discernible role. When Luo Feng had pinnacle energy reserve, his recovery was terrifying, powerful in close combat, and could seize opportunities to execute fearsome forbidden techniques. Once the energy reserve diminishes greatly, a decline in all aspects. The ancestors being internally divided at the time with strong anti-war sentiment, if they had attacked with full strength, it would have been possible to defeat Luo Feng's main battle avatar remaining with only 20% energy reserve. Of course, even a temporary victory. The 8 lords could still recover and return in full force. This is also why many ancestors were anti-war. War spoils allocation complete, Yuan said. Let's move on to the next agenda. With the birth of a new lord, our Cultivator Camp must reallocate territory according to the rules and redistribute subordinates. Yuan looked at the other lords and the present lords all listened attentively. First, the Dark World Group as Luo Feng's homeland will become his absolute territory, Yuan said. Secondly, each lord has the responsibility to guard the border and thus needs to bear part of the world groups on the border. In the air above the round table, began to appear a miniature of the 3,600 world groups. Yuan began the allocation. 8 lords each uses their absolute territory as a guide, ultimately extending to the borders. Each lord's territory somewhat resembles the shape of a twisted fish. I need the Qingjiang world group. Lord Minghuang spoke. She drew her hand across, claiming 3 world groups and simultaneously yielding the others. The previous 7 lords, having invested a lot of effort across vast territories, held some world groups as uniquely significant to them, and opened their mouths one by one, making slight adjustments to their territories. Only Luo Feng, who hadn't invested effort in other world groups, was open to slight adjustments in his territory. Does everyone have no objections? Yuan looked at the 7 lords and nodded slightly. Good, since no one has objections. Then this territory division is settled. With territory allocation completed, adjustments to the subordinate world-level primordial and high-level primordial life forms are necessary as well. Yuan said, the high-level primordial life within the territory naturally belongs to the lord's command. As for the world-level primordial, if a lord's disciple, they belong to the respective lord. Without master-disciple, or such special relationships, they are divided according to territory. The 7 lords had no objections. Many world-level primordials received the cultivation from lords before breaking free from the braided cage. About 1/3 truly apprenticed. Luo Feng, as a new breakthrough, naturally hadn't accepted any world-level primordial disciple yet. Under my command, there are 23 world-level primordials, over 10,025,000 high-level primordials. Luo Feng looked at the final allocation plan, which included 20 captured world-level primordials, and over 8 billion captured high-level primordials. This war saw significant increases in the number of captives for the Cultivator Camp as well. Luo Feng, your cultivator world-level primordials are slightly fewer. Yuan smiled. Those little ones within the braided cage, you can cultivate them more, train several as world-level primordial disciples, naturally they become yours. Luo Feng understood. The other 7 lords had invested countless efforts in cultivation. Being slightly less himself was reasonable too. I'll slowly cultivate them in future. Luo Feng said. No objections regarding this allocation plan? Yuan looked at his partners. With no objection, I'll distribute the plan now. Once confirmed, they had to notify the Cultivator Camp's world-level primordials and high-level primordials. After all, territories were divided, subordinates allocated. Future authority responsibilities needed to be reassessed. Distribute it. No objections. The 7 lords confirmed this matter. Then we begin the 3rd agenda. Yuan continued, with the emergence of a new lord, we must determine how our Cultivator Camp will cultivate younger generations in this new era. Cultivation strategies were jointly discussed and decided by the 8 lords. Firstly, reclaim a large number of resources from all world groups. Lord Mo Man said, previously, since all world groups might fall completely, vast resources were released freely for exchange. Now the war has ended. Naturally, changes must be made. Many world groups might perish, countless creatures might go extinct, giving them broader exchange rights, a greater hope to break free from the braided cage. But now territory is secured. Those divine emperor-level cultivators have endless lifespans, seeking resources? The difficulty naturally increases greatly. With such free exchange, indeed, our Cultivator Camp cannot afford it. Lord Naigu said, need to consider the long term. While lords were discussing in the hall, the territory division plan, cultivation division plan, were disseminated to every world-level primordial, high-level primordial life form in the land of origin. The entire land of origin, a massive number of cultivators received the news. At this moment, Tianlang Ku and 2 friends gathered together. They also received the news. Our Cultivator Camp has birthed the 8th Lord Luo Feng. 8 lords joined forces, completely won this war. Guang Yu Chi Feng Daoist, Tianlang Ku, a total of 23 world-level primordial life forms, please proceed to Sky Moon Sea Cave Mansion, waiting for Lord Luo Feng's audience. Tianlang Ku stared blankly at the message. Lord Luo Feng? The horned man Guang Yu was immensely excited. Unexpectedly, while we worried about war, our Cultivator Camp birthed a new lord. The news of the new lord's birth was kept entirely confidential. Lord Luo Feng already partook in battle, and the war is even over. Victory in war, only then was it made public. Chi Feng Daoist also excited. We must hurry now, head to Sky Moon Sea Cave Mansion, waiting for Lord Luo Feng's audience. Let's go. Guang Yu looked at the side companion, urging, Brother Tianlang, what's on your mind? Hurry up, it's our first audience with Lord Luo Feng, such an opportunity can't afford any negligence. Oh. Tianlang Ku replied, somewhat dazed, immediately set out with companions heading to the Sky Moon Sea Cave Mansion. At this moment, Tianlang Ku somewhat understood why his breakthrough hadn't prompted a summon from the Lord. In the council hall, there was a heated debate among the lords on how to train the successors of cultivators. We have already reclaimed many important resources and raised the exchange threshold. Lord Wulan couldn't help but say, Jin, do you think we need to continue cutting resources? This way the resources are too scarce. Where is it scarce? Jin sat there, shaking his head. When Yuan was weak, the entire cultivator camp didn't have a single lord. Back then there were no good resources. Yuan could only comprehend the rule operation of the source world origin, And didn't he become a lord? When I was weak, the Cultivator Camp had only Elder Yuan as a lord, and the resources were very scarce, yet didn't I also make my way through? Look at Luo Feng. Jin said. Luo Feng rose from the very bottom of a weak, primordial cosmos in his homeland source world. The resources can be ignored. Later he went through hardships to reach the core area of the source world, the land of origin, and was still very poor. At that time, the land of origin was dominated by two ancient countries, and resources were nearly monopolized by them. When Luo Feng left the source world and reached the Nine Rivers Sacred Realm, he was still poor and couldn't afford primordial bloodlines, only able to buy fragmentary materials of low-level primordial life. Jin said. What does this illustrate? It illustrates that fewer resources can squeeze out stronger potential, Jin said. If given too much, these successors wouldn't cherish it. Luo Feng nodded with a smile. Brother Jin knows quite a lot about me and I agree with what Brother Jin said. The successors of cultivators must adapt to the poverty-style cultivation method. With resources sufficiently scarce, yet still able to reach the ultimate realm of Godly King, it means they are worth training. With scarce conditions, achieving the ultimate realm of Godly King, becoming half primordial, is far more challenging than now. Those who are screened under such conditions when exposed to top resources, might jump out of the braided cage, Luo Feng said. He himself tried to extract the potential of every resource. Luo Feng's cultivation path also proves another point, Yuan said. When he stepped into the Divine Emperor stage, he was completely exploring the path in the dark, without any inheritance to refer to. The inheritance we left before proved to be harmful. Wulan also agreed. The more powerful the existence, the greater the impact of their inheritance. It makes it difficult for successors to walk their own path. Any inheritance that leaps out of the braided cage I think should not be spread, Yuan said. Let the successors explore for themselves. Agree. Agree. One lord after another nodded. They had walked many erroneous paths and all previous experiences proved one point. Becoming a lord requires personal exploration. Regarding resources? In this era, according to Luo Feng's experience, Yuan smiled, let the successors grow under scarce resources. Once they are excellent enough, then provide the resources accordingly. Agree. Agree. One after another voted, and according to historical rules, the cultivation experience of the new era will mostly refer to the breakthrough experience of the new lord. Brother Luo Feng also rose from the source world. Mo Man marveled. To date, 8 lords have emerged from the source world. It shows that although we have created billions of worlds with more creatures, the innate talents and qualifications have flaws. The worlds we create are fundamentally different from the source world, Yuan said. As the existence mastering the primordial rules of operation, he has always pursued creating a source world but never succeeded. Future resources should be more inclined towards the source world, Wulan said. After all, only the source world can possibly give birth to new lords. I think the entire cultivator territory should prohibit the existence of calamity-type cultivators, Luo Feng said. A cultivator who takes all creatures of the source world as resources may achieve something but cuts off the hope for all other creatures in the source world. Resentments, weak prey on the strong, Luo Feng can understand. But such calamity types that slaughter a realm's creatures, even spanning multiple reincarnation eras and continuously harvesting the creatures of the source world should not exist. Brother Luo Feng, I am a calamity-type cultivator. Jin looked at Luo Feng. So am I. Naigu looked at Luo Feng. Jin looked at Luo Feng. I was born into the Destruction Demon clan, under the influence of the source world, it's my fate to destroy all life. I descended into destruction, mastered destruction, and thus finally became a lord. For my cultivation path, all life should serve as my resources, Naigu said indifferently. Even in the future, I need the corpses of one ancestor after another as my resources. Every path has its own meaning. Jin looked at Luo Feng. Calamity-type cultivators have their meaning of existence. Pure destruction cannot birth life. Luo Feng said, even you have comprehended part of the mystery of life. The primordial destruction path Jin mastered actually contains a portion of life. Otherwise it couldn't form a life form. I first descended into destruction to ultimately transcend and master destruction, Jin said. Every cultivator has a different path. No path's growth should be restricted. Any path could give birth to a lord. Ming Huang said coldly, the path of overwhelming sins destroying countless lives should not exist. What is sin? Naigu looked at Ming Huang. In this infinite primordial space, only strength and weakness exist. Sin is just what your heart believes. Ming Huang, you are too narrow-minded. We are all life, Luo Feng said, hence we should have compassion for the weak. We were all born from weakness. The weak prey on the powerful, dying because of weakness, that is destiny, Naigu calmly said. Yuan felt a headache witnessing this scene. In the previous long years, lords also had conflicts. Jin, Naigu and Mo Man are considered one faction. Of course, Lord Mo Man is not as extreme as Jin and Naigu. He quite appreciates the cultivation method of the weak prey on the strong. Ming Huang's heart is benevolent, and Wulan admires Ming Huang quite a bit. They are considered one faction. Yuan is inclusive of everything, and Starlight is more of an observer, not participating in the struggle. It seems that Ming Huang and Luo Feng's attitudes are close, and the fight will be fiercer in the future. Yuan felt quite helpless. Previously, the strongest opposition, Ming Huang, was somewhat isolated, but the addition of Luo Feng, who breaks laws with force, gradually balances the strength of the two major factions. Compassion for the weak? The innate primordial life camp will not pity the weak, Jin retorted. Luo Feng, you are also cultivating the primordial life and death Tao, don't you understand that the weak will ultimately be destroyed? Jin. Destruction is to protect life. Luo Feng looked at him. Both sides have profound research on life and destruction, but their directions are evidently different. A harsh environment can help them grow better, Mo Man said. Brother Luo Feng, when you were growing you also faced catastrophic existences. In your weakness you faced the golden horn giant beast. Later you faced the sector beast. Such catastrophic cultivators can provide enough powerful motivation for other cultivators. The catastrophic cultivators we need to target can destroy all creatures in the source world, Luo Feng said. Faced with such an existence, weak cultivators don't even have a chance to resist. Alright. Yuan finally spoke. Stop arguing, let's stick to the old rules. First, if you lords have ideas, you can implement them within your own absolute territory. In other vast areas of the cultivator territory, we'll continue following the free-range strategy. Second, if persuasion doesn't work, rely on strength. If anyone can defeat the combined efforts of other lords, then we'll follow their decision. If you lack strength, endure it. Upon Yuan's words, the lords fell silent. Defeating other lords all by oneself? In the entire infinite primordial space no one can do that. There's no way. Luo Feng secretly sighed. The lords disagreed with each other's ideas and had to seek common ground while reserving differences. Once in his weaker days, Luo Feng thought that becoming a lord would allow him to completely create rules based on his own ideas. Yet now as a lord he realized, his capacity to enact change was still limited. Not to mention the enemy camp, even their own camp required decision-making alongside the other 8 lords. Next matter, Yuan immediately started on the next agenda. A grand celebration must be held for the birth of a new lord as per tradition. The birth of a lord is quite special. For the innate primordial life camp, even the birth of several ancestors won't lead to any celebration. Only the birth of an undying existence, capable of having a seat in the land of eternity, warrants a grand celebration. Every lord receives attention from the entire infinite primordial space and naturally has a seat in the land of eternity, hence the celebration. Let's reclaim the territory first, Luo Feng said. Our cultivator territory's 3,600 world groups, many are yet to be reclaimed. Once the territory is reclaimed, we'll hold the celebration. Very well, as per your idea, Yuan nodded. Our main priority next is how to reclaim the territory. The 8 lords began to discuss. Internally they had differences. Externally they still stood together. Even personalities like Jin and Naigu understood how much aid the Cultivator Camp had provided them. Quickly, a complete reclamation plan was formulated, with tasks assigned to each of the 8 lords. Land of Origin, Sky Moon Sea Cave Mansion. At this moment, a bustling crowd of high-level primordial beings gathered outside the cave mansion. They were extremely excited, discussing amongst themselves and waiting for an audience with Lord Luo Feng. The last time I saw the Lord he was merely a half-primordial being. In less than 2,000 epochs, the Lord has already reached the pinnacle, even concluding the war. The small old man Qing was quite excited, surrounded by a large group of companions. They belonged to the group of high-level primordial beings from the Dark World group. In the past, the Dark World group was quite inconspicuous. Now the Dark World group is the homeland of Lord Luo Feng. It is Lord Luo Feng's absolute territory. Our Dark World group has become the Lord's absolute territory. It will flourish 10-fold, 100-fold in the future. We, his fellow countrymen, will also be heavily utilized. Outside the absolute territory, the free-range strategy is implemented. With the birth of a new lord, territories are also redrawn. Therefore, only the absolute territory receives the full focus of the Lord, naturally leading to immense prosperity. Besides over 10 million high-level primordial beings, there were also 23 world-level primordial beings waiting outside the cave mansion. Tianlang Ku was among these 23 world-level primordial beings. Brother Tianlang, you are a fellow countryman of the Lord. As the only world-level primordial existence born in the Dark World group, you will surely be heavily utilized by the Lord. A companion beside him said with a delighted smile, I believe among the 3 main inspector positions you'll secure one. Other world-level primordial beings mostly looked at Tianlang Ku with envy. After all, being a fellow countryman with the Lord means being heavily utilized, which is perfectly ordinary. The Lord's first visit to the land of origin, over 10,000 high-level primordial beings from the same world group went to pay respects, yet this Tianlang Ku didn't go. The world-level primordial Zhu Hua observed from the side. Suddenly, an invisible wave descended. All 23 world-level primordial beings, over 10 million high-level primordial beings fell silent, sensing their own insignificance under the terrifying aura. A man in black attire and black hair descended from the void. Tianlang Ke looked at this presence, seeing his Lord Luo Feng, for the first time. As a world-level primordial born in the absolute territory, he would forever be under Lord Luo Feng's command in the endless years to come. Greetings, Lord. All 23 world-level primordial beings respectfully saluted. Greetings, Lord. Over 10 million high-level primordial beings, each exceedingly respectful. Only when one faces the true body of the Lord can they comprehend the immense gap, akin to a chasm between themselves and the Lord. Luo Feng gazed at the 23 world-level primordial beings before him, along with the countless over 10 million high-level primordial lives. In the future, managing the vast territory under his command would depend on these subordinates. The cultivator territory was vast, and it could be anticipated that as the overall strength increased, the territory would continue to expand. A large number of source worlds, billions of ordinary worlds, and naturally nurtured treasure mines. The high-level primordial lives on the cultivator side were not enough, so they had to rely on those innate primordial lives who had submitted to manage it barely. The lords wouldn't worry about these trivial matters. This is our first meeting. Luo Feng smiled at these subordinates. In the future, if there's anything important, feel free to report directly. All the subordinates listened excitedly, etching the image and aura of the man in black clothes and black hair before them deep in their hearts. This was the great lord they would follow from now on. Among the many high-level primordial lives, there were also Gu and Yufia. They had previously guarded the dark sacred realm and naturally belonged to Luo Feng's command. Not even 2,000 epochs have passed and he's already a lord. Gu and Yufia gazed at Luo Feng in the distance, feeling that everything was too surreal. The last time they guided Luo Feng, he was merely a half-primordial fusion Dao cultivator, yet now, though his appearance hadn't changed, his aura was boundless, and every word carried endless pressure. This was the existence that grasped the highest power of Dao, and the primordial life and death Dao was a part of Luo Feng's life. Such a great existence brought unimaginable oppression. Even the hundreds of ancestors in the innate primordial life camp couldn't win against the 8 lords individually. It's known how terrifying the deterrence of any single lord is. Your tasks will soon be adjusted. Detailed arrangements will be issued shortly, Luo Feng said. 23 world-level primordials and Qing, stay behind. Other high-level primordial lives may leave now. Yes. The over 10 million high-level primordial lives respectfully bowed and left. Having a chance to meet the Lord's main avatar was already satisfying for them. Qing is truly fortunate. As these high-level primordial lives left, they looked towards Qing with envy. Of course they knew Qing. Among the more than 10,000 high-level primordial lives in the Dark World group, Qing had the greatest influence, and this time he was specifically asked to stay by the Lord. Follow me inside. Luo Feng turned and walked towards the depths of the cave mansion, with the 23 world-level primordials and the only high-level primordial, Qing, following in. The Lord actually kept me behind, intending to make great use of me? But I'm just a mere high-level primordial. The small and thin elder, Qing, was a bit nervous and excited. He was also summoned by the Lord? The world-level primordials glanced at Qing, briefly investigating and immediately understanding the detailed information about Qing. Sky Moon Sea Cave Mansion. Luo Feng sat leisurely by a lakeside looking at his subordinates. Our Cultivator Camp and the innate primordial life camp have just concluded the war. Some territories are still fallen and need to be recovered one by one, Luo Feng said. Each of you must bear the responsibility of guarding. Yes. The 23 world-level primordials and Qing replied respectfully, with manpower being tight, and their main battle avatars needing to participate in the garrison. I have already appointed the 4 directions commanders and 19 guardian generals, Luo Feng said. At his level, based on the previous arrangements of the whole cultivator territory, he had already made the plan in just a few breaths. Every task for the high-level primordial lives had been determined, and those like Gu and Yufia who had some acquaintance, received some significant roles this time as well. Am I the guardian general? Tianlang received the detailed arrangements sent by the Lord. Tianlang, as a newly advanced world-level primordial, was of relatively low strength among the same level, ranked among the 19 guardian generals. In terms of power, much lower than the 4 directions commanders. Besides the borders, my subordinate territories also need 3 inspections, Luo Feng said. Instantly, each of the 23 world-level primordial lives tightened their hearts. The position of territory inspection essentially meant deputy management of expansive territories since it could command over 100 world groups and offered numerous benefits. Will I be chosen? Tianlang was somewhat expectant. I am from the same world group as the Lord, but last time I didn't visit him and my strength is relatively weak. Tianlang was feeling a sense of gain and loss at that moment. My territories are temporarily divided into 3 domains. First domain inspector, Qing Shi. Second domain inspector, Zhu Hua. Third domain inspector, Guang Yu, Luo Feng said. A bald man, seemingly ordinary with restrained aura, was actually the strongest in combat under Luo Feng. Qing Shi was originally a fusion Dao cultivator, later choosing to refine bloodlines into a world-level primordial. He chose 2 completely opposite bloodlines and pushed the power of the bloodline to an incredible level. At the world-level primordial tier, he is one of the top ranks in the Cultivator Camp. He is quite humble, has many friends, and has conducted affairs to the satisfaction of the lords over a long time. Luo Feng chose him without hesitation as the first. Zhu Hua, somewhat burly, clad in deep purple scales, is the weakest among the 3 inspectors at the late stage of the world-level primordial. However, he had previously served as an inspector and did very well. Guang Yu, a man with bent horns at world-level primordial perfection tier. His strength under Luo Feng was second only to Qing Shi. Luo Feng chose these 3 because they had previously proven to be extremely capable of doing things. I was selected. Zhu Hua felt relieved. Being chosen by Yuan before did not guarantee that Luo Feng would also select him. But he was still chosen. The Lord likely values capability over strength. Zhu Hua understood. For the Lord, the difference between early stage and perfection world-level primordials may make no difference. He had previously conducted affairs in such a manner as to satisfy the Lord adequately. Not me. Tianlang felt a bit disappointed, but he also understood that when the Lord hadn't stepped out of the braided cage, the entire hometown of over 10,000 high-level primordial lives had visited, but he alone didn't. That was a total lack of respect. The Lord not choosing him was reasonable. This Tianlang, inherently arrogant, is unsuitable for an inspection role. Luo Feng indeed regarded Tianlang highly, considering they came from the same hometown. But from some prior matters, Luo Feng could discern Tianlang's character. Tianlang was too arrogant. He esteemed those stronger than himself and couldn't be bothered with those weaker. Even when he was a high-level primordial life, he was on poor terms with over 10,000 high-level primordial lives from the same hometown. The townsfolk didn't regard him highly. The more minor and weaker ones? Why would Tianlang care? Such a disposition to manage over 100 world groups? Directly overseeing tens of thousands of high-level primordial lives and monitoring hundreds of thousands of them? Each patrol impacts hundreds of world groups. Luo Feng, responsible for countless weak ones, must also be careful. In Luo Feng's view, sympathizing with the weak is the first requirement of being a patrol. Cheng. Luo Feng looked at the only high-level primordial present. Lord. Cheng was very excited. Being valued so highly by the Lord, he was willing to die in battle for him at this moment. The Dark World Group is my absolute territory, Luo Feng said. The construction needed next will be managed by you, leading numerous high-level primordial life forms, responsible for the detailed construction affairs. Though some of the absolute territories were built personally by Luo Feng, the majority still required many high-level primordial life forms and numerous captives to labor painstakingly. The subordinate will exert every effort, Cheng said excitedly. Good. Luo Feng nodded with a smile, believing in Cheng's organizational skills because of his influence locally. Among my territories, 93 world groups still remain in ruin. Luo Feng looked at his subordinates. The 65 world groups occupied by the innate primordial life camp will be swiftly reclaimed by our lords. The remaining 28 world groups have been invaded by both the Blood Crane territory and Amamo forces. Cheng Shi, make a trip to the Blood Crane territory, compel them to quickly return the occupied world groups. If they refuse, simply return, Luo Feng instructed. Yes, Cheng Shi responded. Wang Yu, visit Amamo, similarly instructing them to return the occupied world groups. If they refuse, there's no need to argue, just return directly. The following matters can be left to me, Luo Feng said. How to reclaim the fallen territories had already been deliberated and determined by the 8 lords. The world groups occupied by the innate primordial life camp, because the ancestors were unwilling to continue fighting, naturally wouldn't hold on to those territories, making it easy for the 8 lords to reclaim them. The Ice Peak camp occupied over 100 world groups, to be dealt with last, when all 8 lords would address it together. There are 11 other forces, granting them the chance to withdraw voluntarily. If face isn't given, then initiate war. The Cultivator Camp faces too many opponents, and that's why they are given the chance to voluntarily withdraw. These 11 forces, although only 2 have seats in the Land of Eternity, the others do not have seats. But lacking a seat doesn't mean weak. Just like 9 emperors among whom 5 do not have seats in the Land of Eternity, yet their strength is exceedingly strong. The forces Luo Feng plans to target, Blood Crane territory, and Amamo, each has considerable foundations. Otherwise they wouldn't dare exploit the situation. Like the force, Amamo, which ranked among the top 3 camps in infinite primordial space in the distant past. Later, Amamo's camp was defeated by the innate primordial life camp, either killed or fled, now only possessing 1/10 to 2/10 of its original strength. I hope these 2 forces will know what's at stake, Luo Feng thought. Cultivator Territory Dark World Group, Land of Origin Source World. This is the Land of Origin? Su Xen stood in the sky above Huyang City, gazing at the flourishing city. Since Luo Feng mastered the source world of his homeland, Su Xen became like a child of the world, unaffected by any threat or harm, even capable of wielding a strand of origin power from the source world. Luo Feng, what realm have you reached? Su Xen looked at Luo Feng, her eyes filled with disbelief. Just recently, Luo Feng had her understand numerous insights. The supreme rules no longer limit her, allowing her to comprehend all secrets. Considered the highest level among cultivators, Lord, Luo Feng said. Lord? Having just learned the information, Su Xen couldn't help but say, according to what you told me, even being in the Divine Emperor realm still resides inside the braided cage. Stepping outside the braided cage is what's known as high-level primordial life, world-level primordial life, and ultimately Lord. You've become a Lord? Su Xen only felt everything was too dreamlike. Morosa. Luo Feng summoned him with a thought. Morosa appeared out of thin air and was even more shocked when he saw Su Xen. He knew very well the mistress's power was weak, unable to survive under the environment of the Land of Origin. But now, facing her, the force he felt from her seemed capable of crushing him. Morosa, greetings to the 2 masters. Morosa respectfully saluted. Luo Feng glanced at him. Morosa, as the sector beast, would have been destined to die with the self-destruction of the source world if he hadn't broken free from fate's restraints. But now, with Luo Feng mastering the source world, Morosa naturally escapes those restraints. Even if dead, Luo Feng could resurrect him. Within the source world of my homeland, life inside the braided cage can now be resurrected by me, Luo Feng said, so it's necessary to decide the resurrection list. Both Su Xian and Morosa were shocked. Resurrection? Luo Feng had long planned, intending to personally draft a list. His wife, Luo Ping Luo Hai, led by his closest kin, could also determine a resurrection list, representing Luo Feng's family. The primordial ancestor, primal chaos city lord, Hong, thunder lord, true inference king, led by humanity on the primordial cosmos side, would also draft a list. Morosa, master emperor Chu, master mountain sitting guest, leading another force, would also draft a list. Emperor Qing, Emperor Ming Di Fu Moyu Qingyan, Emperor Chuyu, etc., also have advisory rights. Future land of origin source world must maintain a balance among the three sides. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and turn on the notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming great videos.